Our Almighty God, Creator of heaven and earth, Father and lover of our soul, you sit on your throne of mercy and rule with your love and faithfulness. You are full of grace. We acknowledge your presence in our lives. Nothing is hidden in your eyes, even our challenges and struggles in life. We come to you with faith. We ask not only for our daily spiritual bread, but to seek your forgiveness and undeserving favor to heal our land, our family members, our friends and neighbors, even our enemies with COVID-19 and other diseases. Holy Spirit, help us to deepen our faith and see the opportunity to believe, obey, and worship. As we face this pandemic, you are Lord and God. Encourage us and change our hearts, not to fear, but to be full of hope and find ourselves praying and meditating your word. We believe no works of the enemy prosper to your children. Abba, Father, we believe that your Son Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior. He is the truth and our salvation. Hear our prayers, O Lord, and most of all, not our will, but thy will be done. We pray this in Jesus' name, the name above all names, who was and is to come. Amen.
Kahatid saya sa mga Pinoy, mga kanta at programang Tatak Pinoy. Napapanood at napapakinggan kahit saan ka man. Streaming worldwide. In South Manila, this is V81 Radio.
Malayo ka man sa iyong pamilya, dito ay hindi ka nag-iisa. Tiyak ito'y iyong hahanap-hanapin, dahil ito ang nagpapasaya sa atin. Ito ang radio mo, ito ang radio ko. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Dahil mahal namin kayo. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Para sa inyo ito, V81 Radio. Ang paborito ng bawat Pilipino, basta all hits, all Pinoy, panalo. Merong kwentong iyakan at tawanan, kahit nasaan ka man ito'y mapapakinggan. Oh, oh, oh. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Ito ang radio mo, ito ang radio ko. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Dahil mahal namin kayo. C81 Radio. C81 Radio. Para sa inyo ito. V81 Radio. Ito ang radio mo. Ito ang radio ko. Dahil mahal namin kayo. Para sa inyo ito, V81 Radio.
By the host do not necessarily state or reflect those of the company and its management. Furthermore, the views and opinions of the guests do not reflect those of the host, the show, this station, the management, and the network. Discover the best-kept secrets in metaphysics, law of attraction, science, and spirituality, and listen to practical mystics from around the world. Let's open Pandora's box with Reverend Reg Tan, your metaphysical minister, here in Practical Magic, your practical mystic source, only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Satnam, everyone. I am Reverend Reg, and today is March 21, 2021, and it's 7 minutes past 8 p.m. here in Manila, Philippines. And it's so amazing because we're already in the 12th episode of Practical Magic Season 2. And today I'm very excited because I have three of my colleagues in the International Metaphysical Ministry to share their tips about handling stress from a metaphysical standpoint. And at the same time, before we start, I just want to invite everyone to go to your meditation spot or the place where you are just experiencing your peace and quiet, wherever that may be. All right, so simply close your eyes, take a deep breath in and out. Take a deep breath in and out. Take a deep breath in and out. And together, let's use our right palm to touch the heart, feeling at peace, feeling collected. And together, let's affirm, I am strong, resilient, and bold, and I live the life of my dreams. I am strong, resilient, and bold, and I live the life of my dreams. I am strong, resilient, and bold, and I live the life of my dreams. Take a deep breath in and out. And simply focus your gaze on your third eye point. And let's start by chanting Satnam 3 times, one for ourselves, the next one for someone you're praying for, and the third for our global village. Take a deep breath in. Satnam. 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 Satnam, everyone. I am Reverend Reg, and today we're talking about stress and what can we actually do to handle it in such a way that we will not lose composure, because we know at the start of the year we all set our goals and our intentions, and especially in the middle of the goal setting or you going back to your planner, whatever that is, there's a part of us that feels that we need to actually deal with the everyday things that's happening, and sometimes they can take our focus away. from the things that we have set our intentions. But before that, I would like to ask Harty. I know that you're there, so I think we're just going to have to check first on the studio, and we'll pause for a short commercial and we'll be back right away.
We'll be back shortly. This is Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I'm the king of rock, there is none higher. So the MCs should call me sire. To hold my kingdom, you must choose fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire. Now we rock the party and come correct. All people on time and rock connect.
Now back to Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Satnam, everyone. We're back again for Practical Magic, and it's amazing, so many things are happening, and even our technology is actually fast catching up with the speed of how we're doing things. Especially, we know these days that when we feel rushed or we feel that time is not really working on our side, it can actually raise the level of stress in our physical body, in our mental health, and even the quality of our emotions. They all get affected. And this is the reason why today, for this first quarter, we're talking about how do we handle stress from a metaphysical standpoint? And at the same time, before we proceed, I just want to greet everyone. Happy spring equinox. And I know for a lot of you, your spring is just about to unfold because of the couple hours difference. But I would like to welcome to the studio Reverend Dr. Joy Maestas, who's all the way from Arizona. Good morning, Dr. Joy.
Morning, Reverend Reg. It's good to be here again.
Awesome, fantastic. And how's your morning in Arizona? Is it cold? Is it hot? The last time I checked, it was snowing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this morning it's cold still. The sun's not up yet, but it's going to be a beautiful day.
Thank you. And I have your book, by the way, and I've been reading it over the weekend. Fantastic. And let's welcome again Dr. Anita Caprice, who's in Detroit, Michigan. Satnam,
Satnam, hi everybody. It's so good to be here.
good
Thank you.
morning, Mom. It's so
Good
nice to have
morning,
you
my
here on the
son.
show.
Thank
All right.
you.
And I'm so happy because Reverend Dr. Joy and Dr. Anita Caprice, they've guested on the show many times, but today it's the first time of our colleague, Honorable Terri, proud to be here. Satnam, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, and it's so nice to have the three of you here.
Mhm. It's
Thank
good.
So
you.
happy spring equinox to the three of you.
Happy
So
spring
Happy
equinox.
spring.
is it something that the three of you celebrated? Is there a ritual, a special family dinner of some sort?
Not really. We
Okay,
did
so
get
it's just like
outside a
another
lot.
day.
Yeah.
Mhm. Awesome. And how about you, Mom? Did you do something for the spring equinox?
You know what? Basically, I worked on things that I'm scheduling, and then I'll tap. I text my daughters, other daughters, messages when they're at work. I'll do a little text, have a super Saturday kind of thing. So that's and enjoy the weather. The sunshine was out yesterday, and I took a walk, and it was
Wow.
absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm happy that
Yeah.
the place is open because now in the Philippines they're slowly bringing back the lockdown.
Okay.
We had a surge, but we're hoping that it will not be the same as last year. And
Yeah.
how about you, Honorable Terry?
Oh, for me, I what I normally do is like a day before. I follow astrology, and
Mhm.
so whenever I see some big event like that, I usually sit down and I write my intentions of what the next chapter is going to be.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and I did it the day before the spring equinox, so that I could
Wow.
spend that day just kind of reflecting on bringing in the new beginning. So
Yeah.
it's a good time for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we know that, at least for me, I'm not sure for the three of you, but in the past, when I'm under a lot of pressure or under a lot of stress, I used to be very anxious, especially, when certain things that you are wanting to accomplish, they don't get accomplished with your timetable. Especially so many things are happening in the community. We have very limited capacity to move around, and most things are now done online. So how do you actually deal with it before you learned about metaphysics, and when you already learned the tools that you have with metaphysics, Honorable Terry?
Well, I think this is a great question for me because being in politics previously, there's a lot of stress to that, as we can see in our environment right now. I mean, just not even being in it, I think it creates a lot of anxiety in people, just how our society is kind of chaotic right now, just with, the political arena. So
Yeah.
for me, before to who I am and where I am now is a completely different individual. So my previous life is what I like to call that chapter is, I didn't handle it very well. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know the tools out there that was available to me versus today, whenever I'm feeling anxious or I feel stress coming on, I take a step back. And that's something that I did not do previously. Previously, what I would do is just react. So
Yeah.
now I take a step back. And I think for me, because I've been doing meditation for quite some time now, I've learned a mantra. And the mantra
Mhm.
that I use is everything is working out for me. And I
Yeah.
just
Beautiful.
repeating that over and over, everything is working out for me. And that has a tendency for me to be able to take a step back, look at the situation. Why am I stressed? What's going on? And to reevaluate and know and trusting in the universe for myself that everything is working out for me and that everything is going to be just fine.
Yeah. Fantastic. And thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're
You
welcome.
know, another person who shares that mantra is Oprah Winfrey.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got that from Oprah Winfrey. She would say in the morning, I celebrate life every moment because things are always working out for me. So a couple of years ago, when I learned that from Oprah, I would start my day, and I was taking my bachelor's degree at that time in University of Metaphysics, and it also became my morning mantra.
Mm-hmm.
I figured out maybe it's a way to share consciousness with Oprah Winfrey. But now I'm also sharing it with you.
It's
So
probably where I got it myself.
thank you for that, Terry. That's really wonderful. And honestly, for me, I think anything about politics will really, raise your blood pressure.
It
Any part
does.
of the globe. That's a way of doing that. So thank you for that. And how about you, Dr. Joy? My God, you have such an amazing experience. You have decades of experience dealing with personal stress and, of course, the stress in the community. How do you actually deal with it before learning about metaphysics and after you knew about metaphysics?
Well, before I learned about metaphysics, it would be trips to the mountains, anything to get out of town and get back into nature, connect, with the
Yeah.
the natural vibes. When I got into metaphysics, then of course meditation is a big part of learning to deal with it, and the personal growth that you go through with each step of metaphysics helped me to release all that anger and to be able to connect with people. And my goal now is to take the stress out of their day when they get married so that they don't have to worry about anything when it comes to the ceremony. I just have
Awesome.
them take a deep breath and it's going to go perfect.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Joy. And I love nature walks as well. And I think that's a way, even if you don't really know about meditation, but in a way, if you're so close to nature, it just puts you in an elevated state of awareness, like what we experience through meditation. So I trust people who are close by nature, especially here in the Philippines. There's a forest in the city. It's called La Mesa Eco Park. So for our viewers who are actually watching this, I encourage everyone to visit the forest. And another, thank you for that, Dr. Joy. Another thing that I want to share with everyone, because mom, Dr. Anita Caprice, has been helping a lot of people who are unemployed, and it's a very stressful thing to be in when when you don't have a work and then you're in the middle of paying your bills. So something like that, mom, I know it's not easy to hold space for someone who's going through a lot of anxiety because they have so much bills to pay and they don't know where they're actually going to get the funds. And I know recently you actually helped someone get employment or something for the work thing. Can you please tell us more about it and how you handled that one?
Okay, sure. Thank you. Well, being what I am is a Michigan unemployment appeals advocate, and I've been doing that since about 2004. Can you guys hear me okay? Because I sound a little muffled with my earphones. You hear
It
me
sounds
okay?
fantastic.
Okay. Um, Only thing I can say with that, because stress and situations are relative, so there is no cookie cutter way of handling things. So basically, what I do first, I take a firm approach because it's important for the person that I'm serving to understand the law and the situation that they're in as far as unemployment. And I don't help them necessarily get employment. I help them get their benefits from the state of Michigan, the fund from state of Michigan. The first thing that I do with when there's a stress situation, because it is, I'm meeting women who are separated from their children, fathers who are everyone's afraid and their homes are being disrupted most times. Some
Mhm.
people are homeless. So the first thing, but my job is the first thing that I have to do is to prepare them for that hearing. So I have to stay centered. I can't get into that emotional state with them. So I have to be firm and say, well, you know what, hold on. We have to work on preparing your case. After now, they all know after we prepare for this case and they know the law. The first thing I do is share with them what the law is pertaining to their particular issue. Once I share with them and I see that they have an understanding of that, then I prepare them for the hearing, what's going to happen before the administrative law judge, what types of questions that they may be answering, preparing their state of mind
Mhm.
into being directly uh, being directly into the situation, because in these types of hearings it's not typical of how we normally talk. And I share with claimants it's very atypical. You are there just to answer a question, and that's not how humans talk. We're always over answering. Now, after I prepare them for that hearing and I know that we're ready, we're eye to eye, I said, okay, because this is teamwork, then we go into the emotional. And simply when it's on that note, I simply listen, and then I'll offer things. I go with my intuition, and I'll go with what my inner teacher says that I can share with them as far as spirituality, and I'll go that way. I had recently a woman who she was upset after her hearing because of situations that was going on with her. And as we're talking, she blurted out, she said, I'm just going to kill myself. Well, of course, I said, okay. I said, I hear you. I said, why do you want to kill yourself? Because I've taken courses in suicide prevention, because that's one of my loves. I'm a field advocate for suicide prevention. And essentially what we did, we just talked. I listened to her. And then as she was talking and I said, cry. I said, this is the time for you to cry now. Now this is the time to cry. I'm here. So at that point, as she was talking, and that's all I said. And then she said, I'm so sorry, Anita. I don't know why I said that. I said, okay, are you okay? Do you still feel that you want to commit suicide? And she said, no. And I'm sorry, no, I didn't say commit, because I'm learning, and forgive me, because that's an improper term. I said, are you sure that you want to do that? So she said, no. And then we talked some more, and then I could hear her voice calming, and I can hear her energy. And then before we hung up, I said, okay. And I don't usually do this. I usually share with claimants, okay, when you get your decision from the judge, when you go into your MyWeb account and find your decision, just give me a call and we'll go over things, what the next step is going to be. Well, with her, I said, okay, I'm going to call you tomorrow. Is that okay? And then the next day, when I called her, she was so much better.
Fantastic.
So yeah. And also with when I'm helping, preparing them, I can be kind of stern, and I know I can. I share with them. I said, that's the nurturer in me. I want you to receive your money. So that's the mom in me. So even though they may be very upset, because sometimes people, strike out at me. However, after the hearing, they would say, I'm so glad that you were firm with me. You didn't go with me into that emotional state. You stayed in control and helped me to win my case. Had I gone into that emotional thing, we both probably would be sitting up here. She called, he or she sending me a call, or I get the decision saying that they lost, because now we're both in this emotional turmoil. So I absolutely love this work that I do, and I'm just thankful for the universe for it. My mother, my sister does it too, and our mother was pioneer in the program that it's a contractual thing, so it's part of my business. She was the first Black woman in the program, and my mother was awesome, and she taught me and my sister very well.
I love that.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing that you're doing, Mom. I love that you were in the space comforting the person, asking her if she was sure about what she was going to do. Because I think for people who are under a lot of stress, they just really want to get that out of their chest and have someone listen to them.
Mhm.
Not someone solve things for them, just to really get it out of their system.
Just to,
So yeah, and I love what you mentioned earlier, because sometimes we over answer. And yeah, it's true. I think that's one of your strengths, because in the many times that we talked over the phone, you tend to draw out things from me that will help me put my message in a proper framework. It's a lot of practice, but thank you for doing that. It's such a beautiful thing.
thank you.
All
Yeah,
right,
thank
and
you.
welcome. And we'll talk more about it after a short commercial.
We'll be back shortly. This is Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I'm a king of rock, there is none higher. So your MCs to call me sire. Come on, my my kingdom, you must choose fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire. Now we rock up funny and come correct. All set on time and rock connect. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I'm a king of rock, there is none higher. Some MCs should call me sire. Come on, my kingdom, you must choose fire. I won't stop rocking till I retire. Now we rock up funny and come correct. All set on time and rock connect.
Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Satam, everyone. I am Reverend and we're talking about stress and how do we actually deal with it in the metaphysical sense. And earlier, Honorable Terry was talking about meditation, and Dr. Joy mentioned about going to nature. And at the same time, Dr. Anita as well mentioned about, going to your inner teacher, but also having the proper frame of mind as you go through it. And I love the work that she's doing because she was talking about how she's actually helping others cope with it as well. So, my follow up question to Dr. Anita is this. So, you're actually holding space for other people, but how do you actually recharge for yourself?
Oh, nice question, Reverend Red. There are so many things that I do to recharge myself. One, like my walks. I love my walks. That's my form. That's another form of meditation for me because I believe that we can meditate mobile.
Mhm.
Praying, talking with the universe, also contemplating. When I was taking my daughters to be baptized when they were younger, down the street was a Catholic church. And I chose that church because we didn't have a car. So the faith or the sector, if you will, if that's the correct word, that didn't matter to me. And I had some Catholic background as well, but because that was the closest church, that's where I took them. Well, it's called catechumen, during the teachings and the instructions, one time the instructor, young lady, she was, I would say 10 years younger than I was, we were talking and she was saying, she said, Anita, she said, there's one day you're going to learn. She said, and that's who taught me, because sometimes we interchange prayer and meditation to be the same thing when it's not. They're very different. So anyway, she said, well, you're going to learn. She said, there is prayer, there is talking with God. She said, there's meditation, there's listening. She said, one day you want to strive to go even past that and contemplate. She said, the highest form of connection is contemplation. That's when you're not setting aside a certain time to connect with God. She said God because the Catholic Church, it'll say universe. So she said, that's when you just as naturally as you breathe, you are connected with God. You talk with God without saying, let me set aside time over here, let me talk here. It's just a natural occurrence. So I try, as far as in my space, is to grow that contemplation and also strengthen discipline, because faith, belief, and trust requires discipline. So I also do that. And then also I have a cup. This is part, because as a poet, I'm a poet, you can't see it, but this thing here is all over in my plant, vibing high, learning to let go, trust in the flow, positive attract, no lead looking back. That learn in to let go means I am thriving to learn not to let go of responsibility, not to just leave it alone, but learn to let go of the worry, learn to let go of fear, learn to let go of my need to control, that I need to know how something is going to come about. All I have to
Yeah.
do is have the intention and then trust that the universe is going to do the how. And the how, I don't want my how to be done, because I'm learning each day as I live. In my 64 years of age, I'm still a baby, and the universe keeps continuing to share with me, listen, let let the universe do it. Awesome. It takes me way beyond what this up here could even imagine. This in here already knows, because the creator put it in there. And
Yeah.
that's how I do. And I plant beans, little beans, and to watch them grow, because I've just learned about the Fibonacci sequence, and how we are to have these miracles come to us. And Reverend Reggie, you know how the God memorandum, I said, I am learning more and more and more. We are all greatest miracles in the world. So when I look at that, then I think about, okay, that's my space. And then also too, very important now, I call it purging. My Catholic background, I do
Mhm.
not, I do not try to try to har- I don't try to hold off or say no, no, no. If I'm feeling in a I'll say in a destructive, negative way, because there's positive, negative, negative,
Mhm.
negative.
Mhm.
If I'm feeling in a destructive, negative way, I don't try to force myself, get over it, get over it. No, I'm a purge. I call it purging. And I am going to allow myself to do what I need to do. If I need to cry, this is always darkest before the dawn, or I should say it's always grayest, because I got the issue with that dark being, evil and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's always gray. It's always gray before the dawn. So if that, because the grayness is the unfoldment, the dawn is the enlightenment. So I embrace both. I embrace both. So even when I'm feeling that 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 space not in aligned with the integrity of the trueness of our being, I still understand, okay, that's my humanness. That's my humanness, and I love it, and I'm embracing it, and I know I'm going to take the time to go through it
Yes.
and then
Thank you.
reach that balance.
Yeah.
I hope
Amazing,
that makes
amazing,
sense.
mom. I love what you talked about earlier, where you're no longer holding back your emotions. If you
No,
feel really bad, you're just really going to express it.
absolutely.
And I want to emphasize that to a lot of our listeners, because in the past, I was also holding myself back a lot. Whenever I feel stressed, I would keep it to myself, and then I didn't realize it was such a bad behavior, because you're keeping it bottled up and it will manifest as a form of disease in the body. And that's why I encourage everyone, if you have a friend who will not judge you and will just hold space for you, go release it to that person, because it's so important for you to feel that there's someone listening to you. And even the fact that you have just released it, you feel like a weight was lifted off your shoulders. Even if there's no immediate solution yet, at least you're not aggravating the problem by getting sick. And um,
Well,
thank you for sharing that, mom. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I just have to say, I just learned about this Cherokee story about the two wolves. And,
Mhm.
when we're in that, when we have that stinking thinking, that's what I call it, that destructive negative thinking, the story is about, you have to feed it. If you starve that destructive negative thought, meaning if you try to suppress it and don't pay attention to it, you're starving it, and it's going to grow. So the moral of that wolf story is feed it. Feed it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Let
Mhm.
it. The
Yeah.
other day when I was meditating, thoughts were coming, and I just said, before I would do, oh God, dang, I'm not it. Now, this is just recently, I said to my thought, I said, I love you. I love you. I'll get with you in a minute. Go over there and sit down. Right now, I want to give thoughts to this.
Wow.
And it worked. It was beautiful. It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. It takes incredible willpower and self discipline to have that kind of self control, mom. So thank you for sharing that. And uh, For you, Honorable Terry, I know Dr. Anita has shared a lot, but for you personally, since you mentioned about meditation and that particular mantra that you said about celebrating life, this particular first quarter, January, February, March, I'm sure at the start of the year you set some intentions,
Mhm.
and probably a lot of them actually manifested. And I'm sure that there are also some of them that didn't manifest. So when things don't go the way you want them to, does it stress you out, or how do you actually move forward when you go through that experience? Because when I was doing a survey, one of the biggest things that stress a lot of people is not being able to actually demonstrate what they want.
That's a great question. And, Anita, she really tapped into some really deep topics that I'd love to expand on. Very wise, what she said. For me, before when I was stressed or giving away too much of my energy to people, I didn't know how to properly handle a lot of the issues. And when in the beginning of the year on 2021, what I decided to do is I really wanted to take time to learn more about energy work. I wanted to learn more about meditation and getting deeper into the meaning of it and really connecting with source. I wanted to learn more about how I can help individuals as a healer. I do Reiki work. And so that has really given me a lot of comfort into my own self, as far as if things don't work out exactly how I expect them to. It wasn't that they didn't turn out or that I didn't get it. Oftentimes it's our expectations that are lies. And so we expect all this stuff and then it doesn't happen. But sometimes we miss the blessing through that process of expecting things to happen exactly how we want. Our communication is a lot different than the universe's communication. They are of a higher realm and we are of this lower realm. And so our expectations are here and theirs are there. And what I have found, when I trust in the universe and I know it's going to come, because it does, anything that we ask, it will be given. And so when we learn to turn it over, it comes, and it comes in a beautiful way. It really comes in a more deep, connected way versus what we thought we wanted. So for me in the beginning, it was all about, learning these things that I'm telling you right now. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It's such a beautiful thing that you mentioned, where our point of view can get very limited, but then there's always a higher power, a higher perspective from the universe that's actually trying to demonstrate in the situation. And here in the Philippines, I just want to get across our audience, when we talk about the universe, we're also referring to the higher power, God consciousness. It's amazing because every time I talk to a colleague of mine in other parts of the globe, and in fact, I was so surprised that Reverend Dr. Tracy mentioned to me in her community in Canada, she was saying, when you talk about God here, it's like a 1950s topic. And people are more comfortable referring to God as universe or higher power. And I was telling her, in the Philippines, if I don't talk about God in my energy healing practices or my life coaching, people will think that I'm an antichrist. So I still bring it up a lot. Yes, mom, it's still the people have higher regard for God. Most people still have that big faith that if things don't work out, maybe because it's God's will. We call it bathala na. It's a Filipino word for God. So bathala na, meaning it's up to God already. So in a way, I think it's also the reason why it was a lot easier for us to manage the situation with COVID and the other things that came to pass, because One of my Filipino American friends was saying, I think it's because of that belief in that higher power that whenever things get really stressful in the Philippines and it's beyond one's physical control, we always say, it's God's will. So, but apparently, I noticed that it becomes really stressful when you know so much about consciousness and subconscious programming because you think it's entirely up to your hands, Dr. Joy. Can you please help us process that information? Because from my school of thought in Unity, we always talk about, you have a conscious level of awareness or your conscious level of the mind, your subconscious mind, and then there's the super conscious aspect or the Christ mind. And that's why for us, it's a lot easier to let go of a situation because we always feel that there's a Christ presence that we can release or surrender the situation to. Can you please educate us, Dr. Joy, about it?
Give me the tough questions. Yeah. Uh, it's when you get into metaphysics, it's like a whole different level of opening up to the universe, to God. Um, Real quick, I love the saying, let go, let God, because it
Yeah.
encompasses so much. You just really need to um, the Christ consciousness, I guess if you'd have to put that in the layman's term, is basically knowing that you have a connection with everything. You're trying to follow the teachings of that Jesus gave us. The big one: love your neighbor as yourself. Um,
Mhm,
th-
mhm.
that just extends to everybody. Um, I've only had one cup of coffee, so uh, the brain's a little foggy. But yeah, the connection, God, universe, it's all the same,
Yeah.
and it is our faith that's getting us through this. With
Yes.
everybody, no matter what country you're in, you just one foot in front of the other, and definitely a lot of gratitude during this time.
Yeah.
Most
And
definitely.
Yes.
yes, and so it is. And I want to share to our audience, last year, around this time of the year, I was part of another digital channel and we had to come up with content. And I was thinking of ways to bring people together globally. So I asked Dr. Joy to share a video for us because the lockdown has already begun in the Philippines. We were 3 months into the lockdown before they opened it up, and then they put us on lockdown again, and now they're bringing it back on a curfew. So it's been an amazing journey where 1 minute you guys are all staying at home and then the next minute you're going around the place and then you're moving back. So it has been that way for us. And I want to highlight what Dr. Joy did for us. Thank you again for providing us that content. She was encouraging all of us to, do our best even with the lockdown thing. And I was so amazed because she was finishing her doctorate degree at that time, and she still found time for us to listen to her, and that's why even with her book, I think a lot of my Filipino friends will love the content because here she's also talking about the angels, which is another big topic for us in the Philippines, and I think for the rest of the globe, a lot of people actually believe in angels and how angels can actually help one thrive despite chaos and confusion. So, do you have any idea about angels, Mom? Is it something that you discuss with your clients or the people you work with?
I do not. For me, I do. For me, I take angels, the angels, and our ancestors. I take those to be as one. So that's a personal truth for people. So I have studied angels. As a matter of fact, I'm a namer. So, for instance, my little girl is named Angel. My
Yeah.
masculine energy is named Gabriel, the angel. So, and I know about Michael, and when I do pray or even think about things or even dream when I'm listening to the music, the Gregorian chants and different things like that, I do think about them. However, I have to say, as far as the, as teachings, I embrace the teachings, I accept them, and all of the, with the divine educators, Yeshua, of
Mm-hmm.
course, being one of them. I guess for me, the connection with the universe, the creator, I can go directly.
Yeah, beautiful.
So yeah, so I do believe in all of that. I believe, my sister is an angel. My mom is an angel. Those who have transcended are my angels, and I think about them all the time. Yeah, so in that context, yes, my son, yes, Honorable Terri and Reverend Dr. Joy, I look at angels in that sense, if you will, if that's making any sense.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. I actually brought it up because I think it's so important for anyone to have that concept of higher power, whatever that may be for them, because sometimes it's just that little window of help that opens up for you where you feel that there's hope. And with that hope, you slowly begin to move forward after releasing all the tension, because these days it's such an interesting situation for a lot of people. I noticed that for those people who actually have the money, naturally it's a lot easier for them to cope with what's happening right now. There's a little discomfort because you're not able to do your activities outside, but it's still a very comfortable place to be if I'm gonna look at it, compared to the ones who don't really have anything to actually hold on to in this situation. So thank you for sharing that, Mom. And Honorable Terri, I noticed that you were quite interested about the angels topic. Do you have any personal experience about it?
Oh gosh, I've been having personal experiences with the metaphysical world since I was a little girl. I didn't understand them at the time. I do now as an adult. But there was a time in my life where I questioned even the existence of God, because so much stuff was going on in my life. And I'm like, I grew up in a very, very religious background
Mhm.
that didn't allow a lot of freedom. And
Yeah.
God that I was presented with was a very hard God, was very judgmental. And so when
Mm-hmm.
things happened in my life, I felt as if I was being punished. And
Yeah.
God came to me, and I know, okay, let me tell you the experience because I'm getting ahead of myself. But I was going through a very, very difficult time in my life. And I was driving down this road in Illinois, and it was a farm town. And I said to God, I said, you know what? I said, I am really getting tired of this. And I talked to God how I would talk to anybody, because you can't fool God. He already
Right.
knows. So I was just straight up with him. And I said, look, I am really tired of what's going on in my life. And I need some sign. I need something. And there was this presence that filled my car, and it was like a white cloud, and it was so much that I had to pull over. I literally could not see. It was like fog in my car, and I was just crying. I was crying so much because of the amount of love that I felt in my vehicle. And I was the only one in there at the time. And I had this vision. He gave me like this little vision of who God is, and the male and female, and the all encompassing, and just a little bit. He showed me that the love of who he is, and angels too, is so expansive that we as humans, we cannot even comprehend, because
Right.
Yeah.
we just blow up, in this white ball of energy, because it's so is just so much. So how I look at it now is that God to me is all love, all love encompassing. And he helps us through what I call spirit guides and angels, some call, or ancestors. But they do come to us, they help us, they teach us, they guide us if we ask. And it's
Yes.
as asking them, guide me today. Get me in touch with someone who needs me, who needs help, who I can help through you. You know, so those are the things that I look at, and I talk to my angels every day. Every day,
Beautiful.
4 or 5 times. Yeah. So so those have been my experiences with the angels. And you know, there's trust. You got to have trust because it's a relationship.
Yeah.
Anything that you have, whether it's your family, your co-workers, your friends, whoever it is, it's a relationship, and you have that same relationship with the spiritual world.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my
Thank
take.
you so much. Thank you so much for sharing it. It's such a beautiful thing to be able to see and feel the presence of the Almighty, God, higher consciousness, in a way that's very personal to you. And I love what you mentioned about in the past, you felt that when life wasn't working out for you, you felt that you were being punished, and that God is like a referee making a scorecard of what you're doing right and what you're not doing wrong. And
Right?
then all of a sudden you get a punishment. Because I also had that experience where I initially thought that God was someone who had a very dualistic approach to things, where if I do things right, then I get brownie points for it. And if I don't do it right, then I get a punishment. But until I realized that it was my perspective that was doing it to me, my concept of my relationship with Source, God, higher consciousness, Christ, the more I understand, like what you mentioned, that God is all love, all encompassing, then things began to make a lot of sense for me.
Yes.
And instead of saying that I was being challenged every day, I would tell myself in the middle of a challenge that what an amazing adventure I'm having. So I like that you and Dr. Anita were telling our audience that, you know, you really have to talk to God as if you don't have any reservations about what you're going through, especially when you're under a lot of pressure, because at that point you feel a sense of lightness in your being. And from that standpoint, you're a lot easier. I mean, it's a lot easier to navigate the situation. And something that I want to ask Dr. Joy, because you have incredible experience. I mean, from handling your personal life and your professional life, and of course, managing your small community, or your growing community, rather. How do you actually make sense of it all? What's the number one thing a person must put in mind in case they're under a lot of pressure, they're not metaphysically thinking about the situation? What's a simple way to get them off the difficulty if they don't have a metaphysical background like the three of us, like the four of us have?
Uh, Basically, I would say it involves going with the flow. Um, the metaphysical background, well, any type of spiritual background that they would have, they're going to have some type of faith. So you just in layman's terms, you can't get upset over the little things. You've got to look to your support group. And
Yeah.
when I used to get upset, I mean, I had anger issues. I really did. Now everything, it's just, if things don't work out, then good. I've got time to do something else. Um, really, you have to have some type of a creative outlet. I think really helps, whether it's writing or art. uh, physical exercise. You know, you've got to take that first step in your life and get out there, let everything else go. Um, so yeah, I would say definitely people need to not micro focus on stuff, but just
Mm,
realize there's a bigger picture going on,
yeah,
and you know, let go of the little things. Don't micromanage. Get out there, and the sun is finally coming up. So let's get out there and enjoy the day, and whatever happens is going to happen, but it's
yeah.
going to be for our higher purpose of showing the higher purpose to other people and enjoying life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Joy, because it totally resonates with what Honorable Terry was talking about earlier. You know, we only feel that level of stress when we have a very limited perspective about it. But when we raise or lift up the situation to God, higher consciousness, whatever that is, then it all begins to click. And we'll talk more about it after a short commercial.
We'll be back shortly. This is Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila. Pagpatak ng 7, dapat lahat nakatutok sa amin. Catch these programs at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. Talk Shop Asia Global, USA Edition with Rolly Pagaspas and Rosario Cajucom Bradbury. Home Not Alone, Sounds from Home with Papa Gio and Freedom in Christ with Felson. It's all about entrepreneurship, entertainment, and enlightenment. Back to back programs at 7. LA at 7. LA at 7. Exclusively on V81 Radio, Los Angeles. Kabayan, nahuhomesick ka ba? I-download na ang aming mobile app at mag-enjoy sa mga kantang Tatak Pinoy and feel like you're home. The V81 Radio mobile app, available in the App Store and Google Play Store. V81 Radio mobile app, free now, free forever. Now back to Practical Magic, your practical mystic source. Only here on V81 Radio, Manila.
Satam, everyone. I am Reverend and today we're talking about stress and how do we actually metaphysically handle the stress that we actually go through. Because I realized personally for me, there's a level of stress that can actually help us so that we can be motivated to move forward, but at the same time, have the tools that will help us remain healthy in the short term and in the long run. So earlier we were talking about the different personal practices of Honorable Terry, Dr. Anita Caprice, and Dr. Joy Maestas. And right now, we're talking about the higher purpose of whatever situation that you feel is not working out to your advantage, that realizing that you don't really have to be so serious about your issue, even if you feel that it's a very critical matter that you have to address. So, talking about higher purpose, Mom, what can you say about it? Small plans not, materializing, especially it's the first quarter of 2021. I know a lot of people set their goals at the start of the year, and if they don't get it, especially for companies, bosses in the corporation, if they don't meet their targets, of course, there's a certain level of stress that people go through. And how do you now navigate the situation, reason out that there's always a higher purpose to everything? What kind of self talk would be most beneficial under those circumstances?
Okay, thank you, Reverend Reg. Okay, you mentioned stress. We know there are two different types of stresses. There's eustress, which is good stress, and then there's the stress that can cause, our physiological discomfort. Manifesting, we are always manifesting. Manifest means to bring forth. We are always manifesting. The question is, are we manifesting what we want versus what we don't want? I know I've manifested a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't want. Another, I mean, I was just sharing on. I do a 40-day prosperity plan that I'm creating for people once it's done. And today I was sharing that how we manifest all the time. For instance, I manifested a Celica car that I wanted that car, and I loved that car for a minute, and I would drive it. It was 180 sports car, gold mile per hour. I go on the freeway, put the moon roof up, and just enjoy the ride. Well, ultimately what happened was 3 men came and I signed a piece of paper that I wrote to show that I signed over the car because they were coming to repossess that rascal. So I'm saying that to say we manifest all the time. I manifested that thing. What I'm learning as far as self communication, I think that was the question, is that
Yeah.
there is a difference. There's a very difference between visualization and vision. There's a very difference. Visualization is our conscious wants. Now, is that
Mm-hmm.
parallel with the vision of God? Many times mine hasn't been. So for me, my self-talk, I'm learning, like I love what Reverend Joy said, Reverend Dr. Joy, let go in the flow. Some people, you mentioned goals. Some people are goal setters. Some
Mm-hmm.
people are intention seers. I'm an intention seer. And for years, I thought I was a failure because people said, do your goals, make your goals, do this, write down your goals, and I never succeeded at them. I've always been one. I see the end picture and I see myself at that end picture. I really never worried about how I was going to get there. I didn't know that was metaphysics. I've been doing that all my life. When I was
Mm-hmm.
going to file bankruptcy, I didn't see me standing in front of that judge and them creditors. I saw myself walking out of that building saying, okay, I'm cool. So I've always just been there. So as far as self-talk, to me, it's about what resonates with the person. I mean, we tend to group things, I think. Even metaphysics, to me, metaphysics is not a religion, it's not a philosophy, it's not a science, it is a state of being. What is it? Our connection with the universe, our connection with nature, our connection with each other. There's no religion in that. There's no really philosophy. It is, it just is, if we just put it, keep it, put it in its context. Self-talk, meta, going beyond. We all do that. All of us are metaphysicians. I mean,
Yeah.
all of us are. So, I mean, I guess it depending on, and I guess for me, the self-talk, what I'm learning is if we're all gonna be together as one, well then come on, let's be together as one and let's quit separating, putting things in different categories. And when because as long as we keep doing that, there's gonna be disunity. And for me, and I take this very seriously, we need to stop doing that. So self-talk, including everyone. I love what Honorable Terry said as far as like that spark of God. I read that recently in the Kabbalah. As far as how God is love. God is not. Yeshua didn't say be this religion, think this way. Okay, that's over there, that's over there, that's over there. Nothing like that. So I'm the self-talk is if we're gonna be one, come on, let's do this thing. Let's be one and be one in love.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mom, because last night, part of my sharing to my prayer and meditation circle was about dedicating a portion of our prayer time yesterday for the Asian discrimination. I was exposed to a friend's vlog, and he was showing the discrimination a lot of Asians are experiencing right now. And like what you mentioned earlier, if we just put ourselves into the space where we think that we're all the same and that we're unified in the situation, there's no separation, then we can actually put away with a lot of those biases. And those biases actually cause a lot of misunderstanding
Mhm.
and having to self protect because you don't realize that the other person is you. So thank you for sharing that. And something that I also want us to realize right now, because we're all dealing with our personal stress, and we know that as metaphysicians, there's just no way that one person is going through their own level of stress that does not affect their surroundings, the people that they're working with. And we know that a lot of our collective problems right now are actually coming from people not experiencing a lot of the inner peace that everyone is supposed to experience. That's why our collective problems are blowing up. And what do you think right now as a collective? What can we do best to handle the collective sources of our stress? There's economic meltdown, there are political unrest, and there's just so many things happening right now in the collective. And personally, for me, it's not just about one country anymore, because there are certain things that a particular country can do that will actually benefit the rest of the collective. So I want to know, for you, Honorable Terry, what do you think is the best way to handle the stress that's being experienced by the collective? Let's say political differences. That's one of the biggest sources of stress that we see every day.
Well, oh gosh. So I believe that in order for us to really change the world for the better is that we have to change ourselves individually. That it's an individual thing. And I think what we've done is we've forgotten, number one, who we are, just as spiritual beings, and we really don't know who we are. I found when I was in politics, I had no clue who I was. I was told what to do. I was pressured to what to do, and there wasn't any individual decision making. It was a group. It was a very hateful environment, a very contention, a lot of fighting environment. And when I stepped out of politics and realized that it was not for me, I wanted to serve in a different capacity, and I wanted to serve more on a spiritual realm than what I was doing in the political realm. And what I found was that I didn't realize how much I had brought that into my life, and it filled me up all this because I didn't know how to fill myself up with the good stuff. I didn't know anything about affirmation. I didn't know anything about meditation. I didn't know anything about manifesting into our lives. And when I realized that my thought process really was what was creating most of my demise in my own personal life, I began to change my thought process. And I began to change my thought process into more positive things, more positive affirmations, knowing that God's got this. He's got my back. I'm a child of God. You know, I'm a victor of God. You know, he is my source. And if God is for us, who could be against us? And so when I realized that and really believed it to the core, it changed my life entirely. And I was able to deal with things in a more spiritual manner and not take things so personally. You know, we take things so personally with everything. I mean, everybody gets offended for everything, you know, and we have to realize that, you know, people are on their own journey. Everybody's on their own journey at a different level. And, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with respecting each other as individuals, as human beings. And, you know, one of the questions I have been pondering myself is, what does it mean to be a human being? And what does it mean to be socially responsible as a human being in our society? So these are the questions, and these are the questions that I've been asking myself just recently. And, you know, we have a lot of ways that we can handle the stress in our lives. It's through meditation, through walks. And I loved what everybody was saying about different types of meditation. Because it's not just sometimes it's hard to just sit there and quiet your mind. A lot of
Yeah.
people have a difficult time doing that when, our mind is racing all the time. So there are different methods of meditating, and being in nature is really the best way to do it. Because
Yeah.
nature to me is God, everything.
Mm,
So
Beautiful.
yeah.
that's beautiful.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing it. And
Thank you.
personally, for me, another type of meditation, which, I've been sharing to a lot of people, is powerlifting, strength and conditioning. Because you're not allowed to lift anything if your form is not proper, because you're gonna get injured. And for that alone, it really heightens your level of focus and concentration. And it really helped me a lot get into that space where I can practice deep breathing almost instinctively. So, yeah, there are many different types of meditation, walking, and for me, exercise is one of the best ways to get into that meditative mode, because you can't be exercising and then your mind is flying everywhere,
That's
because
true.
that's the best way to get injured.
Right, right. That's a good
So,
point.
yeah. So it's something that I share a lot with my friends, and it's something that I would also, maybe any of my colleagues would want to give a try, or anyone from our audience, because it's just really amazing to have that outlet to get whatever it is that's stressing you uh, out of your system, because you don't really have to keep it bottled in, and then later on it immobilizes you, and then what was supposedly a very small uh, challenge now begins to blow up, because we're not able to handle the initial phases of it. And another thing that I want to ask Dr. Joy, because Honorable Terry has already shared her part when it comes to, dealing with the stress in the community. How are you handling it in your side of the globe, in your small community?
Well, I want to I want to make a reference to the fact that I love your posts every day, Reverend Reg, because when you start out your morning, you always say, "It's going to be a good day. I choose to make it so." That is
Yeah,
so important. You're setting your intention uh, for the day. And I think globally, as a global community, that if we could collectively set our intentions for the day, we can influence our community no matter how small or big it is. Um, Another thing I want to uh, tell people all over in the Philippines and in the US, turn off the news. That, there's a difference between being informed and being addicted to that energy that it puts out. I listen to the weather report. That's the only thing I really care about, because that's the only thing I can have any control over.
yeah,
What they're doing in Washington or whatever political, whatever country. I don't really have a say in that. They don't ask me, so but the weather,
Hey,
yeah, why they don't, I don't know. I'm all over the web, so they know how to get a hold of me. But yeah, so the the stress that we put ourselves in. Um, I really encourage people, do what you love. If it's whether it's physical exercise, artwork, writing, journal. If something's really, really stressful, journal it down and then let it go.
yeah. Thank you so much for
Amen.
sharing that, Dr. Joy. Such a beautiful thing. And, one of the things that we actually discussed last year for a lot of our viewers, we were talking about replacing fear with managed concern in the Heart Math Institute. And it's so important because what Dr. Joy mentioned earlier, we can't really handle certain things if we just pause and then realize what is ours to do. and what is for other people to do, then it will significantly reduce the amount of stress that we unnecessarily experience every day. And a lot of the stress that people also go through is, minding other people's business. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Joy, because we know that, even if you have so-called uh, certain ideas how a person's life can be better if they do things a certain way, it's another thing that you're unnecessarily bringing to yourself for judging how things are supposed to be for another person or a particular situation, especially if you're not directly connected to it. And I know, Mom, you have a lot of things to share about minding your personal business. Please share more about it, because we know that when you're in social media and when you're mindlessly scrolling your feed, a lot of the things that doesn't really concern you, all of a sudden it becomes a concern for you. But the amazing thing about you, Mom, you have the self-discipline where if it's not necessary, if it's not necessary, you actually even delete the app. I remember in the past, you would delete the app and then just open it when you're going to use it.
That's funny. Thank you, my son. Um, minding my own business, not, whew, let's see, because let's see, minding my own business means not necessarily getting into the personal business of others. However, minding my business is a collective thing, though. So it's kind of a thin thread, if you will, because right now, and I hope I'm not plugging or anything, but I have to say, with honors and with a blessing, I've been invited. I'm connected with a global sisterhood, and I received an invitation to lead as a global chairperson. Now,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm very honored about that.
Wow.
What that means is that, but see, it's a sisterhood, so we have to start somewhere. So minding my business is getting getting sisters together in support and encouraging. So
Mhm.
minding my business means I'm stepping into the business of others, if you will. And right now, my business is is wanting to grow this global sisterhood. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
So, like I said, it's not a plug. So, if you ladies are interested in what I'm talking about, let me know. Okay, let me know. So, to get back into the mind business, um, you know, and that's such an important question because, mind my own business. Do I mind my own business if I know someone is contemplating suicide? Do I
Yeah.
mind my own business if I know someone is involved in domestic violence? Now, do I mind my own business when in my daughters and their husbands' lives? Absolutely. You know what I mean? So minding my own business. Now, yeah, I don't deal with the destructive negative BS. Now, I'm gonna tell you that right now. I don't flow with that. So you're right about that, my son. Anything that's not progressive or anything that's dramatic, yeah, I'm gonna delete it with the quickness because I just don't want because I just don't want I don't want that energy around me because energy is powerful, whether
Yeah.
it's harmonious or inharmonious. So I don't like to deal with all that. Um, so yeah, I do try to mind my business. I'm learning, however, minding my business is expanding, like the school. I'm
Yeah.
minding my business in Africa. I mean, so minding my business, it has expanded and also learning, okay, like I know you guys heard of Kenny Rogers, know when to fold them, know when to hold them, know when to run away, know so I'm learning, how and when to mind my own business, because it's a journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
all learning. I'm still learning. I'm still learning all that stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And it takes wise discernment to actually be able to filter what's yours to do and what you should leave alone. So thank you for sharing that, Mom. And at the same time, we're almost nearing the end of the show. Thank you so much, Honorable Terry, Dr. Joy Maestas, and Dr. Anita Caprice. I always learn so much from my colleagues, and it's such another fantastic episode of Practical Magic. And I'm actually going to take away a lot of nuggets from this conversation. And before we end the show, I just want to ask Honorable Terry if our audience would like to keep in touch with you and work with you, where can they find you?
Okay, so you can go to my webpage. It's still in the process, but I do have a contact that you can reach me at terryproud.org, or you can search for me on Facebook. So any of those avenues.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And how about you, Reverend Dr. Joy?
At joyousofficiant.weebly.com. You can get a hold of me through there.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And Mom, for you?
Yes, please reach me. You can reach me through my email at spokenword.edc@gmail.com, or you can call me 1-313-605-8220. I'd love to hear from you, your voice. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much for sharing those, Mom. And Harity, please put the ad board for our audience to see.
And Reverend Reg, I learned so much from you all the time we talk. So I'm
Thank
I'm,
you.
I'm I'm honored that you're able to learn something from me. So
Of course, I am so happy working with all of you. And your book, actually, I've given it to a lot of my friends. Thank you so
yes.
much for that.
Oh,
I also
thank
want
you.
to thank Unity Philippine Spiritual Center, Benedictine International School. And next slide, please. Of course, our alma mater, University of
Yes.
Metaphysics, University of Sedona, and the International Metaphysical Ministry. Honorable Terry, would you like to share something about the university?
Oh, I just love the university. It has changed my life completely, and things that I just keep learning all the time. And the people, the connections that I've made because of this university has enhanced my life in such a positive way. I mean, I wouldn't be here today speaking with free right now had it not been for the university. So it's a great opportunity if anybody is looking to enhance their spiritual awareness of who they are, or just being in contact of having that personal relationship with God, the universe. This is a great school, a fantastic school.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And how about you, Mom?
Oh, I love University of Metaphysics. In fact, we have a new sister member, someone that I went through coaching instruction with. She emailed me or private Facebook messaged me to let me know that she joined the
Wow,
university. Yes, she is a student of the University of Metaphysics.
Oh, wonderful.
beautiful.
Yes, that's what I said.
Awesome. Thank you. And how about you, Dr. Joy?
The support that you get through the university is like A plus. I never would have got through my thesis or dissertation without the support of Linda Exley, Reverend
Oh,
Linda Exley over
yes,
there.
Yes.
She's fantastic.
yes, she is.
Everybody at the university is just they're endless in their support, and I really love them all.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I do
fantastic.
too.
Thank you for sharing that. Next one, please. And something that I want to share with our audience, there's an ongoing scholarship program. And if you need an easy payment plan, you only spend $1,290, $90, and that's only $90 for the down payment and $25 for the
Mhm.
installments. And it's just amazing because a lot of the alumni are still supporting the scholarship program. That's why the school has been able to maintain this type of tuition fee for the last 20 years, I think. And if you want to prepay your doctoral program, it's only $990. Next one, please. I also want to thank Mom. Your your poster is here because you were the first guest ever. Also,
Oh,
Dr. Diana Bihuni, Dr. Cindy Palos, my brother Anthony Benton Brown, um, Andrew Whitburn, Jennifer Hill, Dr. Yolanda Dukes, and also Dr. Stephen and his wife, Dr. Kathleen Riley, Tina Brinkley Potts, and Reverend Adam Hayden. Next one, please. Also, Arnel Caranto from Life, and at the same time, Reverend Sheila B. Tillich. Thank you, everyone. And uh, let's go back to the studio. And if there's a particular practical magic tip, Honorable Tina, that you want to leave with me and the rest of our audience tonight, what would that be?
Who?
who was it?
Honorable, Honorable Tina, if there's one practical magic out of all the things that you mentioned to us tonight, what do you want us to focus on this week?
Oh, for me,
Yeah,
intention, setting intention. I think when Reverend Dr. Joy talked about how every morning you have your intention set about the day, I think that's so important because it sets our mindset
yeah,
right then and there, first thing in the morning, of what our intention of the day is. So I think intentions are extremely important.
yeah.
So that's the advice I would give.
Thank you for that. And how about you, Reverend Dr. Joy? What do you want us to focus on as a practical magic tip?
I would say focus on the good that, it's like uh, my colleague Anita said, it's gray before the dawn. Let's focus on the fact that it is going to get better.
Yeah,
Everything's temporary. It will get better.
thank you so much for sharing it. And that's very reassuring to know. I always, because I think maybe because I'm still in my 30s, I also tell myself when people tell me, patience is a virtue. People say that a lot of times, but I also tell myself, impatience is also a virtue when you're doing it for the right reasons. And something about me that I know, if you have good intentions and if you feel that your idea will actually benefit yourself and a lot of the community, I don't think that you should hold back. Because, for instance, this show, for example, Dr. Joy was witness to how this show came about from the pre-production up to how it's running now. She was witness to how things actually manifested. And for me personally, there are certain things that you need to be impatient about, and something like this, because I'm just so grateful that I have the opportunity to converse with the three of you, because what we're able to talk about right now, maybe we think of it sometimes, we think of it lightly as colleagues working together, but the impact this types of conversation has for a lot of people listening, and they don't know what to do about their personal concerns right now, and they feel that they're in a puddle of mud. It's just an amazing impact that for me is very important to share with the rest of the globe. And how about you, Mom? What's your practical magic tip for us this week?
Okay, practical magic. Well, okay, so we know that energy cannot be created. It can't be destroyed. However, we can transform it, right? So my
Yeah.
tip for is be the energy you want to attract.
Wow.
Ooh, good one.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mom. That is so amazing. Thank you, Honorable Terry, Dr. Joy, and Dr. Anita Caprice. And I trust that our viewers, you're also able to get a lot of tips and be able to apply them immediately, because learning without application is incomplete. And, remember, before we end the show, you are the magic you've been waiting for. And before we start with our day and part our ways, I just want to invite everyone to close your eyes, and together let's affirm the light of God surrounds
The
us, the
light of
love of God
God and
enfolds us, the power of God
God
protects
protects
us,
us.
the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is and all is well. Satnam,
Yes.
everyone.
Satnam. Blessings, peace, and love, everybody.
And so it is. Thank you so much, Harty and Sir Charlie and Sir Ronnie Pagaspas. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
V81
guys.
Radio. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Satnam.
Tunog Pinoy, Tatak Pinoy, your all hits, all Pinoy digital radio station in South Manila. This is V81 Radio.
Ito ang paborito ng bawat Pilipino. Basta all hits, all Pinoy, panalo. Merong kwentong iyakan at tawanan. Kahit nasaan ka man, ito'y mapapakinggan. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Ito ang radio mo, ito ang radio ko. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Dahil mahal namin kayo. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Para sa inyo ito, V81 Radio.